Well, outside of the weather and election day today, we're also following another big story.
Governor Tony Evers will deliver his budget proposal tonight at 7. And joining us now to talk about that and our primary election, political analyst Brandon Schultz is here with us.
Hey, Brandon, welcome back.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
We're keeping an eye on that Department of Public Instruction race today. So what do you think it's going to be like going into April when we have our two final candidates?
It will probably be one of the few DPI, Department of Public Instruction races that people will pay attention to. Because, first of all, education always elevates itself. And when this is such a high-profile race, people are going to pay attention. You're going to have two really interesting candidates. We're going to see one, I think, Brittany Kinzer come through because she is the conservative. She's a blue dog Democrat. But the interesting primary will be between Jeff Wright, who's the superintendent in Sun Prairie, and the incumbent, Jill Underly. And there's some issues there, you know. She doesn't have the full support of the governor, and he's got the support of WEAC and the educational institutions. So if the two of them split the vote, it's a maybe, I don't know. I think it might be a coin toss tonight. If you really want to have a competitive election, it might be a coin toss. And then the two of them go into April, but they are the undercard to the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race, which is already up and running. I mean, there's millions of dollars that have already been spent on that race and almost nothing on the DPI race. So today, we'll watch to see what happens, and we'll get the results tonight. And then, you know, there's kind of 6 weeks left to go. But I think after today and starting tomorrow, the real focus is going to be on the Supreme Court race. Not minimizing DPI, but that's just where people's heads are at, because the importance of the court having the ability to stop or change laws or make changes in what's already in our statutes and what happens in the legislature, what the governor wants. Those three branches of government are closer entwined than it's ever been. So whoever has majority, they have the power. Whoever has the power makes the decision. That's where that race goes in April. And if you remember, last year, they spent $55 million for the power. There's no question that's going to be more expensive this time around. So starting tomorrow, it's a 6-week sprint.
And there is no primary for Supreme Court. I had someone at my polling place today ask about that. Why is it not on my ballot today? There's only two candidates, so there's no primary.
But what people find is the DPI race, maybe a town council, maybe a city council. So you have local elected officials. This is their day. It's a nonpartisan election. So if you haven't voted, you know, you still got a couple hours to brave the cold and get out to the polls.
Let's talk about the governor's budget address. What are some of his priorities in this address? And this is just the beginning of what could be a long process, right?
Yeah, well, for political junkies, today's a twofer. I mean, you have an election, you have the governor's budget, so it's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Overload, you know? The governor has telegraphed some of his issues and some of the things that he thinks is important. And keep in mind that this could be a legacy budget, because if the governor doesn't run again in 2026, this budget is his last. So when he talks about the year of the kid, and you know, he brought that up in the State of the State, he's talked about mental health issues. He's talked about, you know, he's talked about roads. He's talked about a position in ag to help farmers. But one of the things what it really comes down to is you only have so much money, and where are you going to spend it? Are you going to spend it on existing programs? Can you do new programs? Where can you go? We know that Medicaid is an issue, and the governor may just have to fund that with the $4 billion surplus that the state has. Republicans, on the other hand, after the governor delivers his budget tonight, will say thank you. We really appreciate it, and we're done with that now. And they will go into what's called the Joint Committee on Finance. That's the big committee in the Capitol, in the legislature, that does our budget in Wisconsin. And so they will take the governor's budget, set aside, and they will start to craft their own. In the months to come, you'll start to see those two come together, where they either completely reject something from the governor, add some of their own, maybe they find some things to compromise. Both of them talk about tax cuts, but Republicans have said we're not going to spend money that we don't have on things that you want to fund. So you're going to see some loggerheads. You're going to see some fights there. You know, Republicans may just bring a tax cut before they get to the budget, which would be interesting. Both have talked about mental health. You know, both have talked about, you know, Voss has talked about adequate funding for schools, but if you look at Jill Underly's budget for the Department of Instruction, she wants $4 billion. She wants the surplus. Well, that's not going to happen. So you're going to have a lot of need, like we always do. You're going to have a limited amount of money, and somebody's going to be a good person, a bad person, because they said yes or they said no. But this budget process is long. It will finish by the end of June because it has to. It has to finish by the end of June. That's law. And then they will have a budget. And then the governor can sign it, or he can veto parts of it. Then they'll have to go back to the drawing board to see what they can put together. But tonight is the first
Wish list.
first time you get to see the governor's wish list, and you'll see Republican reaction after that. But as they say, that's tonight. Tomorrow they have to roll up the sleeves and get to work because it is an enormous challenge to take on Wisconsin's budget. It's just huge.
Well, I'm sure we will have you back often to talk about this process as we go on. So thank you.
Well, there's a lot that affect people in their lives that they, sometimes you just don't know. I mean, are you going to cut the sales tax? Are you going to have no tax on tips anymore? That's in the budget. So
Right.
we'll have to see what they agree on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
You bet.
Brendan.
Nice
Great
to
to
see
see
you.
you.